It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Blasts reported in India tonight as tensions with Pakistan ramp up. Sky News travels to the site of one of this week's attacks as fears grow of an all-out conflict.
You can see where the missiles struck here. The damage is extensive, and locally it sparked instant anxiety and anger.
Sky News understands that the head of the Royal Navy has stepped back over an alleged relationship with a colleague. Also tonight, two men are found guilty of cutting down the sycamore gap tree, but police say they still don't know why the pair did it. Donald Trump hints he's prepared to soften his stance over America's trade war with China. Plus, as the new Pope celebrates his first Holy Mass as the head of the Catholic Church, there's pride in his hometown of Chicago.
It's a miracle and a great blessing.
And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. We begin with the escalating tension between India and Pakistan over the disputed region of Kashmir. Cross-border violence has continued throughout the day, stoking fears of an all-out war. And tonight, multiple blasts have been reported in the cities of Srinagar and Jammu in the Indian-administered part of Kashmir. There have also been reports of blasts in the city of Amritsar inside India. It follows a series of Indian attacks on Tuesday against what India says were Pakistan-backed rebels. India blames them for shooting dead dozens of tourists last month. Pakistan has denied any link. One of India's targets was the Jamia Qura Mosque in Muridke in Pakistan. Sky News has visited the mosque to assess India's allegations. Our Asia correspondent Cordelia Lynch reports now from Muridke.
This is one face of a spiralling conflict with many more. A window into a dangerous moment in an old dispute. India claims this is a terror base. Locals insist it's a mosque.
What is happening right here?
A civilian compound, they say, with schools and a seminary.
This is the mosque main area. This is the main prayer hall. This is the court, central court of the mosque. And
the missiles struck in the early hours of Wednesday morning in Muridke, killing 3 men. Hansler said it felt like an earthquake.
Lots of people had already vacated a week ago, so you feared that this was coming.
Actually, the government of Pakistan thought that it could be possible that India could attack this place due to all that allegations and all that propaganda that this place is a terrorist camp.
India has long believed this is the home of Lashkar-e-Taiba, a militant group designated as a terror organization by the UN. But in recent years, the Pakistani government has taken control of the complex.
What response do you think Pakistan should take in this moment?
India has clearly violated international border, and he is, attacked here, violating international border and killed civilians in the Pakistan. And Pakistan has very right, according to international law, to defend itself.
They feel locked in the crosshairs of the Indian military here, and resentment runs deep.
You can see where the missiles struck here. The damage is extensive, and locally it sparked instant anxiety and anger. A hit like this on an area like this has the potential to have a much more devastating impact in the long term.
Remnants of the missiles remind them more could easily come.
The whole roof collapsed. What has this done to the mindset of the local people here?
Obviously, they are worried and they are somewhat sad that their place of worship has been destroyed and demolished by India.
India maintains it's targeting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan. The government here flatly rejects that and denies any links to the attack on tourists in Kashmir that led to this. Islamabad, though, has for decades been accused of supporting and financing militants.
Do you accept Pakistan has a terror issue?
Pakistan is a victim of terrorism right now.
Many here want to see a strong response.
This
This is a matter of national dignity for Pakistan. Our elders, our army, our government look compromised. They better know what they will do.
Do you fear all-out war?
Yes, both countries are nuclear powers. We don't wish for war, but right now it looks like it might happen.
Both countries still believe they're treading carefully, but passions are running high. And this time, the rest of the world seems far less involved. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Marike, Pakistan.
To breaking news now, and Sky News understands that police are investigating an alleged attack on a prison officer by the Southport murderer Axel Rudukubana. A spokesperson for the prison service told Sky News police are investigating an attack on a prison officer at HMP Belmarsh yesterday. Violence in prison will not be tolerated, and we will always push for the strongest possible punishment for attacks on our hard-working staff. Sky News understood the prison officer was taken to hospital as a precaution and was discharged the same day and is expected to return to work next week. We'll bring you more on that as we get it. Bring you more breaking news this hour, and Sky News understands that the head of the Royal Navy has stepped back from his role over allegations of a relationship with a female colleague. Well, Sky's Sadia Chowdhury joins me now. Sadia, what else do we know about this?
Well, the First Sea Lord, Admiral Sir Ben Key, was always due to step away from being the head of the Royal Navy later this summer. But earlier this week, the Ministry of Defence said that he had stepped away due to private reasons. That response was then updated tonight with the MOD saying an investigation is ongoing and it would be inappropriate to comment at this time. Well, those allegations that you mentioned were first revealed in newspapers. The Financial Times had quoted two people familiar with the matter as saying that the investigation related to a relationship with a female subordinate. And the Sun newspaper had said Admiral Key, who is married with 3 children, is suspected of breaking the Navy's strict service test, which effectively prohibits sexual relationships between commanders and their subordinates. It's not thought that the person involved was in his direct chain of command. But as the head of the Navy, Sir Ben Key is in overall charge of naval personnel. So what does this mean for the Navy? Well, this is the first time in the Royal Navy's 500-year history that its First Sea Lord has faced a misconduct hearing. It also comes at a very difficult time. The service is currently carrying out a strategic defence review, and a major naval conference that was due to take place next week with military personnel from around the world has also been cancelled. Well, in the meantime, the Second Sea Lord, Vice Admiral Martin Cannell, has temporarily taken charge. And as for Admiral Key, we have reached out to him through the MOD, but he has not commented. He began his service 4 decades ago in 1984. He was appointed the First Sea Lord in 2021. And last year, he declared zero tolerance for unacceptable behaviours. Previously, he'd said those who do not wish to serve in accordance with the values and standards of life in the United Kingdom's armed forces will be removed. There is no place for you.
Sadia Chowdhury with the latest on that story. Sadia, thank you. Now, when the famed sycamore gap tree on Hadrian's Wall was felled in the dead of night almost 2 years ago, it provoked a national outcry. Today, 2 men were convicted of cutting the tree down in what prosecutors said was a deliberate act of destruction. But police say there's still no clearer to understanding what motivated the pair to attack one of the country's most beloved landmarks. Our North of England correspondent Shingi Mararike reports now from Newcastle Crown Court.
More than 150 years of history cut down in just moments. An act of vandalism, filmed in darkness and enhanced by police. The sycamore gap tree was a symbol of regional and national pride. But overnight in September 2023, it was felled, turning a historic site into a crime scene.
If you could just clear back a tad.
The tree was destroyed and Hadrian's Wall, which it toppled onto, damaged. A jury agreed those were the actions of two men, Daniel Graham and Adam Carruthers, one of them felling and the other filming. Graham and Carruthers were friends who, through their work together, had cut down large trees. As people reacted, the pair revelled in their actions, taking images of a wedge of wood and chainsaw that night, and exchanging voice notes.
Someone there's tagged like ITV News, BBC News, Sky News, like news. I think it's gonna go wild.
It's on Sky News as we speak.
Then, 11 months on, pride had turned into panic, with the pair now charged and facing trial. There was an anonymous phone call to Northumbria police, in which Graham, who argued in court he had nothing to do with cutting down the tree, blamed his co-defendant.
So, one of the lads that had done it, Adam Carruthers, has got the saws back in his possession.
It was this evidence, as well as Graham's phone and car being tracked to the site, that led to their conviction. The pair will now be held in custody before they're sentenced in July, the police still struggling to understand their motivations.
We often hear references to acts of mindless vandalism, but that term has never been more relevant than today in describing the actions of those individuals. At no point have the two men given an explanation as to why they targeted the tree, and there never could be a justifiable one.
As well as the inexplicable actions of two men, the trial was also brought back into focus the significance of the tree that once stood here. It was a scene of wedding proposals, ashes being scattered, and countless more memories. The National Trust are preserving parts of the tree, turning its remains into 49 saplings, which will be planted across the country.
From our point of view, this is a sycamore tree. You know, it's a common tree in the landscape. But from the cultural point of view, it's important for us to do because it's nice to have that legacy.
The actions of Graham and Carruthers have changed the landscape forever, destroying a symbol of the Northeast that had a legacy that went well beyond the region. Shingi Marike, Sky News, Newcastle.
President Trump has hinted that he may be willing to compromise in his trade war with China. He said today that he could see tariffs on Chinese goods, currently at 145%, being cut to 80%. His intervention comes ahead of talks tomorrow between Chinese and American officials. Mr. Trump has just been speaking in the White House.
We have to make a great deal for America.
Are you going to be disappointed if he comes back without a deal?
No, not at all, because we already made a great deal. We're not doing business with China right now.
Given your relationship,
you know, we lost $1 trillion last year with China, $1 trillion. So if you're not going to do business with them, you're not going to lose $1 trillion. But we lost. I want China to do great. You know, I'm very friendly with President Xi. I have great respect for him and for China, but we can't continue to allow them to do what they did. When I was president, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and taxes. And then Biden screwed it all up. What he did to this country between the border and between all of the other problems, the wars, everything, what he did to this country should never be forgotten. But one of the things he did is the trade was so bad and so imbalanced. So I think we're going to come back with a fair deal for both China and us.
Have you given Besant a number?
Let's go live to Washington and our U.S. correspondent James Matthews. James, it's quite a drop, isn't it, from 145% to 80%. Is this the start of the so-called art of the deal?
Certainly the way Donald Trump would like to frame it, I think, Barbara. Donald Trump has swung between talking tough and sounding conciliatory on China. And the latest one, it was Truth Social this morning, speaking about 80% tariff for China, as opposed to the current 145%. Said it was up to Scott Bee, his Treasury Secretary, the man who will travel to Switzerland at the weekend, and the man charged with interpreting his president's strategy and translating that for the Chinese, which might be no easy matter. I mean, 80%, that is a hefty reduction. It still has to come down to work for the Chinese, I suspect, and also for US traders. Interestingly, for all there is the talk of the art of the deal, when you stand back and look at the way this deal is playing out, there's only one man, there's only one side shifting its position, and that is Donald Trump. The Chinese have stood back, have not blinked in all of this, and they do have a president who has, well, critics would say, been erratic and rather incoherent. So it will all come down, in the first instance, to Switzerland. Neither side talking up expectations. Scott Bessent talking about this as a de-escalation, an opportunity to sit down, de-escalate, find a starting point for moving forward. The finish point, I suspect, Barbara, will be well beneath the 80%. And while we're discussing figures briefly, there was a White House news conference today talking about the fallout from the UK-US trade deal yesterday. Of course, the figure the UK won't like so much in that is the 10% baseline tariff, which remains, according to the White House. And in that news conference, Donald Trump restated his determination not to bring that down. That baseline tariff, a bad news tariff for the UK, will remain at 10%.
James Matthews with the latest on those developments. James, thank you. And speaking of the UK there, the Prime Minister has insisted that the trade deal he struck with Donald Trump yesterday will mean security for thousands of British jobs. So Keir Starmer was speaking in Norway, where he's also been attempting to keep European leaders on side ahead of trade talks with the EU next week. Our political correspondent Rob Powell is travelling with the Prime Minister and sent us this report from Oslo.
Phase 2-4, Sir Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Thank you very much.
Buoyed by a trade deal with the US, now a pitch to allies in Europe.
I mean, it's certainly more intense, I think, isn't it, now than it's maybe been not so many years ago.
It's a busy time for these British troops in the Norwegian capital.
Can you get your coffee, sir? Yeah, can I get a black coffee, please?
A busy time for this British Prime Minister too.
Black coffee will be fine.
The US deal announced yesterday was clearly a big political win, but can you say with confidence that voters will notice the benefits? And isn't deeper ties with the EU the big prize?
The deal with the US yesterday was a really good deal and very, very important. It will be measured in billions of pounds, and particularly in the many thousands of jobs in car manufacturing, in steel, in aluminium, in pharmaceuticals. We've got a very important summit with the EU a week on Monday where we are resetting that relationship.
This military summit in Oslo is a chance to press the flesh to that end.
Mr. President Volodymyr, can you hear us?
Ukraine, the main topic of discussion. This is a Prime Minister seeking closer ties with both Europe and the US. But does that work in the round? It's here at Oslo City Hall where the Nobel Peace Prize is handed out. It's an award President Trump has said he deserves. But leaders meeting here have a somewhat different approach to winning the peace.
Yesterday brought a cosy phone call and a done deal with Donald Trump. Today, a different focus for the Prime Minister. Sir Keir Starmer has so far managed to paper over the diplomatic gaps between Europe and the US with warm words and niceties. But squaring the two off when it comes to trade could be more difficult.
The Tory leader, a former trade secretary, calling for more.
It's not a huge success at all. It's not even a trade deal. It's a tariff deal. And we are in a worse position now than we were 6 weeks ago. It's better than where we were last week, so it's better than nothing, but it's not much.
But this trade expert says the real flashpoints will be more economic than political.
The UK has chosen, or is about to choose, to align with EU food standards. That puts our trade relations with the US potentially slightly at risk. So it is a tricky balancing act.
Back on board in Oslo, a warm reception for the Prime Minister. His task now, selling these efforts on defence and trade to a sceptical electorate back home. Rob Powell, Sky News in Oslo.
In Russia, Vladimir Putin has put on a show of strength and his allies at commemorations of the 80th anniversary of the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. A huge military parade took place in Moscow's Red Square, watched on by the Russian president and world leaders, including China's Xi Jinping and Brazil's Lula da Silva. Our Moscow correspondent Ivor Bennett was there and sent us this report.
On Moscow's Red Square, the very identity of modern Russia was on display. For this is a country that's now defined by its military and its memory. A show of power and patriotism to celebrate the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany. But as Russia remembered one war, it sought to justify another. Troops from the battlefield in Ukraine joined the parade, along with units from China and other so-called friendly nations. It's a sign of Russia's new direction, Xi Jinping at Vladimir Putin's right-hand side.
The truth and fairness are on our side. All our country, society and people support the participants of the special military operation. We're proud of their courage and determination, the power of spirit which has always brought us only victory.
Then came the weapons at the forefront of Moscow's invasion. For the first time, a fleet of combat drones paraded on their launchers, and the final flourish, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, capable of carrying multiple nuclear warheads.
Despite the military hardware on show, Russia's most powerful weapon here is arguably its history, which itself has become weaponized. The memory of 1945 is used to give credence to Russia's current course and to tell Russians that victory is their right.
Not everyone believes it. Ludmila survived the siege of Leningrad, one of the darkest chapters of World War II, and isn't afraid to oppose what's happening now.
This offends the memory of those who died. It's an insult to the millions who gave their lives. I'll ask my mother and my relatives who died at the front for forgiveness. Please forgive me for not being able to shout loudly enough to prevent war.
Vladimir Putin declared a 3-day ceasefire for the parade, dismissed by Ukraine as theatre, while America wants something much longer. But no sign of that from the Kremlin. Why doesn't Russia give Donald Trump what he wants, a 30-day ceasefire rather than just for 3 days?
Yes, I just focus on economic and investments. I don't do much diplomacy and politics.
Are you worried that America will walk away from the peace talks?
I think our diplomats are working very diligently and have good dialogue. Thank you very much.
The best dialogue Vladimir Putin had here, though, was with his guests, including North Korean army generals whose troops have been fighting against Ukraine. A new world order or a rogues gallery? Russia is at the centre. Ivor Bennett, Sky News, Moscow.
And you saw some North Korean generals in that piece there. We've just had some breaking news coming out of North Korea, the state media there, the Korean Central News Agency. Now, they're saying that North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, says North Korea's participation in the Russia-Ukraine war was just. And he goes on to say that North Korea would not hesitate to authorize use of military force if the US persists in military provocations against Russia. So that news coming into us from Korean state media, the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, saying that the use of military force in the Russia-Ukraine war was just, and he wouldn't hesitate to authorize the use of military force if the US persists in military provocations against Russia. That news just coming into us now. We'll bring you more on that as we get it. Now, a 31-year-old Iranian man has been arrested by counter-terrorism police in northwest London. Police say 3 other Iranian men detained in the city last Saturday as part of the same investigation can now be held until next weekend. An art dealer who featured on the BBC show Bargain Hunt has pleaded guilty to offences relating to terrorist financing. Ogeno Chuko Ojiri admitted failing to report high-value art sales to a man linked to the militant group Hezbollah. He will be sentenced in the next month. Police say a 59-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after the death of an 87-year-old man in North London. Police were called to reports of a robbery in Manor House on Tuesday evening. The pensioner was taken to hospital but died yesterday. Now, Leo XIV has celebrated his first Mass as Pope a day after his election at the conclave in the Vatican. His appointment has been met with delight in his hometown near Chicago, where those who know him say his elevation was never in doubt. Our U.S. correspondent David Blevins reports.
A moment steeped in centuries of tradition. But all eyes are now on the future. The first Pope from North America feeling the weight of his calling.
Through the ministry of Peter, you have called me to carry that cross and to be blessed with that mission. And I know I can rely on each and every one of you to walk with me.
Today is obviously a day of great joy. It's a day of great celebration that a fellow Chicagoan has been elected as Supreme Pontiff.
At the cathedral in Chicago, they were praying for Leo XIV, their most famous son, their Pope.
It's a miracle and a great blessing.
I hope that he can help people to see beyond the divisions of the country and remember the poor.
I'm hoping he'll bring inspiration to all of us to preach love and that the people in Washington listen.
A missionary to Peru with a heart for the marginalised. He'd previously challenged President Trump on immigration and Vice President Vance on Christianity. It's been a remarkable journey from small-town Dalton outside Chicago. Did you ever imagine that from this little church might come a leader for the Roman Catholic Church one day?
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you why. Our faith in this little parish was so strong and gathered so many people together. And in my little mind, I thought, that next Pope's got to come from here because we're such a great little community.
At St. Mary's Church, they knew the boy called Bob was destined for great things.
Some children dream to be the top soccer player or rich or something, and he dreamed he was going to be the Pope.
It's just a shell now, but this is the church where it all began. His pilgrimage from altar boy to Supreme Pontiff. This old building bears testimony to his close ties to Chicago's south suburbs. But the derelict nature of it also represents some of the enormous challenges Pope Leo now faces as leader of the Roman Catholic Church. A compromise candidate, traditionalists and reformists uniting to elect him. But for Pope Leo XIV, the work of rebuilding has just begun. David Blevins, Sky News, in Chicago.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's papers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by Susie Boniface and Benedict Spence. Welcome both. Among the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the eye, the headline, Reform UK surges to 10-point poll lead over Labour as Farage plots path to power. We'll be right back.